if this book inspires one young person to become a comic book editor or comic book writer or comic book artist or letterer, then my job is done.
Good to go. All right. Welcome back to the Comic Lounge. I have two of the most awesome editors in the business. I got Shelly Bond, who you've heard me talk about countless times on this channel, and I have Kris Simon. The two of these amazing women are part of a group of editors that created Insider Art, which was created during the pandemic, over 150 creatives to help female and non-binary retailers during this trying time. And today they're here to talk about the Kickstarter that's going on right now. As of the day this goes live, we'll have 4 days left on the Kickstarter. And I'm pretty much just going to let them run and go with it and tell you guys why this project is so awesome, because I already do. I already know why it's awesome. Welcome, guys.
Hey,
Thanks.
Ryan, thank you so much. What an introduction.
Yeah.
I'm still blushing. My dress is really black, but I'm blushing so much it's turned red.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We're really excited to be here talking about Insider Art.
These are our prototypes.
Yes, these are the prototypes, so you can see exactly how thick it is.
Yeah, I'm jealous. I want one.
Well, these are very delicate. These were copies we put together strictly for promotional use. Because when we put this book on Gumroad, we knew that it was going to be hard to show off just not only 270 pages digitally, but just the scope of the tremendous artists and writers and colorists and letterers and editors who joined forces to make this book a reality.
It's so fun to see 270 pages all together. It's so you can just get an idea of the heft of it, of how much you're getting.
And it's only 20 bucks.
20 bucks. 20 bucks.
And another reason why we made it 20 bucks, which by the way, regular bookstore could charge 40 bucks.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
We wanted to make it affordable because we know that everybody's struggling right now.
And not only that, but for your 20 bucks, you get so much stuff in here. Then it's not just a reading opportunity either, although there is a lot of stories in here, but it's also fun crafts and games and coloring and just so many different things. Directions on how to make, teddy bears and origami, yes. Recipes. There's so many cool things that's very interactive. But,
hey, let's rewind and talk about the recipes, because Kris is the editor of the kitchen section. And when she joined the project, it was very clear for Kris, it was kitchen or bust.
It was. I lobbied hard for it. And Mariah, who was the one who initially I was in contact with, was just like, kitchen? No, I don't think anybody has that. I was like, yes, yes. Because that's my jam. And so I'm a total foodie. So so we have all sorts of amazing recipes how to make bread, like a ton of different bread recipes in there.
Actually you were posting pictures. You made Jessie Jordan's bread recipe, but you added some special ingredients.
Her banana bread that she's got listed in there, and I added chocolate chips,
nice.
Which she suggests, right here where she says to add your own filling. And I did, and it was so good. It's gone. It was.
I was going to say,
4 days.
Did you bring a slice of that bread for myself?
It's so good, and it was so moist and delicious. It was just incredible. So hats off to Jessie.
Yeah, awesome job. I mean, I'm a cook, and you're talking right to my heart right there with the recipes in there.
Right.
And a bread.
What else do we have to do in quarantine except cook? I mean,
that's all I did. It made my mouth water, that picture, by the way. But Shelly, go ahead.
I can't boil an egg, okay? You guys, I mean, I can bake 2 cakes, and I've been practicing since 1982. Same recipe, the family stuff. But Kris also has a really interesting short story about tea and catnip. What's that about?
So I did stay-at-home brews, which were herbs that you can find super easily, perhaps even inside your cupboard or your cabinet. And the first one out, though, I had to have it be catnip. A lot of people have catnip because they have cats. But you can make a tea out of it, and it tastes minty.
Cats? Who knew? Are there cats in this book?
I think there are. There are quite a few.
Wow. Okay. Actually, there's a Counting Cats game. in the book as well.
There is, yes.
But continue.
The catnip tea is really good for anxiety. So if we're feeling stressed out about everything that's
Oh,
going
not
on in the
me.
world.
I don't get stressed out much.
So basically, all of my tea recipes are to alleviate certain symptoms that you might be feeling while cooped up, trapped, sick, or, just general malaise. So
Yes.
yeah, so that was my contribution was for helpful tea recipes. But Shelly, I mean, your section, the garage section.
Yes.
Well, the garage, I'm not going to lie. I think the entire project came about because I've always wanted to be in a garage band. And, somebody just brought me my guitar. So I'm going to prove to everybody that playing guitar is not my jam. I've tried 3 times, so clearly it's time for me to give up. But when I decided to actually put this project together, it was in response to the vitriol that I saw all over the internet and actually in my own house. I think everybody was depressed. And I know from my friends in comics, the 2 words that everybody was waiting to hear was pencils down. Mm-hmm. And when that happened, everybody panicked. A lot of people were furloughed. And I thought, you know what? We are not going to just sit around and be miserable. So I reached out to Jen King, who is an amazing retailer, who's always been a champion of my Blackground books and of my other projects. And I asked her if she wanted to join forces and create an anthology. She was in, and so she's been a tremendous resource in helping us reach out to retailers who were struggling. Because first and foremost, this was an act of kindness. Everyone who worked on this book donated their time and mad skills. No one took a red cent, and we worked tirelessly. Mm-hmm. But I gotta say, anyone who joined us on this project, it was like, at least we had a purpose. Yes. It was also a way to channel our negative energy into doing something positive. Mm-hmm. And it was empowering, I think, for all of us. We wanted to make it specifically for female and non-binary comic book retailers because at the time, you guys probably remember, there were a lot of initiatives that were just starting up. There was, of course, the wonderful Bink Initiative, Hero Initiative. I believe there were some famous comic book artists who were doing sketches that people were paying, 10 grand to buy for their store. We wanted to give back to our own. We wanted to support the female and non-binary and marginalized gender communities that bust their butts for people who make and read comics like all of us.
Provide a safe space for fans to come in and be themselves and geek out and nerd out. And yeah, it was a thank you. It was a hope we can help in this little way. And it was fun.
It was fun. Yeah. And we did it in under 3 months during a global pandemic.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I think that should be on a t-shirt, right?
Or that you guys came together in such a short period of time and created 270 pages with, I mean, I've talked about it, corralling talent. And 150 people came together.
It was a cakewalk. Honestly, do you know why it was easy? Because we put the call out through the Comic Book Women's Facebook group. Mm-hmm. And then word spread. And I think, if anything, Insider Art exemplifies the art of collaboration, of joining forces with disparate people from all across the globe. Yeah. We all have that one important need, and it's to communicate and to pay it forward. I think that this book is also a great example of like-minded people getting together for a great cause and helping the next generation too, because we not only have superstars like Becky Cloonan and Jill Thompson, but we also have newcomers. And at a time when it's not easy to break into comics, this is such a wonderful way, for people that saw us on Twitter, for people that joined our Facebook group, people that had never written a story before, we were happy to take them on and help them hone their craft, and oftentimes bring another collaborator to their project that took it to the next level.
Absolutely, yeah.
So much of this book was a labor of love.
Definitely. And, it's kind of funny because I took that opportunity in the kitchen to reach out to a couple people who are not in the comic book industry, but who are doing fine art, and have them included in mine. So the the media one that I have, multimedia art that I have in there by Jennifer Sternberg. You know, she does that on her own, art journaling, and she comes with some amazing stuff. And I just had always loved it.
Yeah,
And so it was
cool.
my opportunity to be like, how do you do that? And it's like, surprise, surprise, in the kitchen.
There you go.
So
She made it happen.
yeah,
It's not, Kris didn't just steal her father's secret apple cider
apple cider
pie recipe, which, by the way, he's still kind of pissed about that.
I don't think he's so much pissed as he's just
He is pissed.
well, there it is.
Oh, I have been in touch with your dad. You're in trouble.
Yeah.
Your high school bedroom with the Duran Duran posters, it's got like basketball stars on the walls.
Yeah.
Like you are not going to recognize it, and it was all you're doing.
It was all mine. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, you know what? It was worth it.
Well, good. I'm glad you feel that way. This is a good time to tell you about the craft room because Sophie
Yes.
Dodd is not only, I think, the greatest contribution to comics this year or any year. She's the phenomenal colorist of Bitterroot.
That's
If you
right.
haven't picked it up, there are many reasons to pick up Bitterroot. I mean, it's socially and politically ahead of its time. It's a wonderful regular comic book series that actually won the Eisner this year for Best Continuing Series. But there are many reasons to pick it up. Sophie's coloring is one of them. Sophie edited the craft section, and she actually pulled a bunch of her friends together. She lives in Margate, which is a seaside town not too far from London. She pulled her friends together. Sophie's a costume designer, but she's got friends in high places. So there's so many great things to do in the craft room. This is a zine by Laura Hull, which is like something I've always wanted to do. Zine culture goes way back, but I think it's hotter now than ever.
Which is awesome, by the way. I love that it's coming back.
It's so good. And
Yes.
also, how about these sock puppets? How crazy is this? Like, didn't you always want to do a sock puppet of David Bowie as a
Those
lad?
are awesome.
Right? I
Yeah.
mean, who doesn't have a few pairs of old socks, like from your partner, like lying around the house? Like, get cracking with the sock puppet. She's pulled in people from all different types of industries, including she has an incredible sign maker who also, I think, designs tombstones. And she has this great guide for how to do some hand lettering.
That's pretty cool.
You can make piñatas. And also, I don't want to brag, but people that have known me for a while know that I brag, and also know that my secret hobby that I actually can do semi-well, it's not guitar, but it's making teddy bears. And so, Kris, if you can reach to your right, I've got a few teddy bears hidden underneath there.
Oh,
I have a very brief tutorial, but you too can make your own Ursa Minor. This is exciting, which is a company that I had long ago on a different coast. I have about 300 in my house. I used to sell them in a small boutique. And now, Ryan, I believe your daughter has she received a secret package of at least 5 or 6.
She loved them. She was playing with them all day yesterday.
I'm so glad. They needed a good home. Honestly, we were being taken over by bears, but they're fun to make. They're easy, so you can learn how to do that in the craft section. We also have some really spooky sections in here. The book is all ages, so you're not going to really creep anyone out too much. But Kris, talk about the basement a little bit, because we have
the basement is great because, first of all, I think everybody can relate to it, even if you don't have a basement, because it would be what you do if you did have a basement, which is where you store your photo albums and you look through and you find all sorts of memories, or you're down there trying to sneak a kiss with your boyfriend, but the dog keeps interrupting.
Maybe that was you. I wasn't allowed to have boys in the house. Oh my goodness. I wasn't allowed to date until I was 30.
Well, I think mine was a little earlier than that.
You need to have a word with my dad, I think.
Yeah, but the basement actually has like the spooky stories, but it has the fun stories. It honest to God, has a little something for everyone.
And we have to give props to the co-editors of the basement. I kind of call them the two-headed cat, which was apropos. If you take a quick look on their page, we have a two-headed cat donated by Danny, who is a phenomenal artist who lives in Elizabeth Bree and Megan Brown were the co-editors of this section, and they really brought it home. I was super impressed with how many young and talented creators that I was unaware of actually came into this.
And also,
compendium.
they don't have a basement. They've lived in California their whole
Right?
lives.
So I think that's one of the reasons why they liked the basement.
Right?
They got to
That's
live
just
out their
fun.
they got to live out their childhood fantasies
Yeah.
by curating a section of this book that they could make up. And of course, anyone who likes D&D, who doesn't,
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
they've got
Indeed.
the ultimate story here,
Yep.
which is drawn by Sweeney Boo, and
That's
also
what you put in your basement. I mean,
a
honestly,
terrific team. Sam Maggs is the
you
writer.
watch Stranger Things. That's where
Right.
they play their D&D.
Hallie Rose Lyon.
Mm-hmm.
Apologies if I butchered your name, but you're a great letterer. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for donating your time. Let's flip back to the beginning of the book because I want to talk a little bit about the bedroom. Again, it's all ages. I got to tell you, this book is perfect for any reader of Raina Telgemeier stuff.
Absolutely.
I mean, any
Yeah.
Raina Telgemeier book, whether it's smile or guts or drama, you
Mhm.
will love this. And it's perfect for the holiday season. We made this book not only super cheap at $20,
Mhm.
we have a buy one, get one for your best friend forever. And you save $5. We've got a retailer and librarian deal that's
Mhm.
buy 3, get 2 free.
Mhm.
And we did that because we wanted to find a way for the retailers to actually benefit from this. So while this might cost you $20 in plus shipping, this costs your retailer whatever they want to sell it for. This costs your librarian however much they want to sell it for, or just give to friends, give to other
Mhm.
librarian friends.
Keep it in rotation. Yeah.
Exactly. So we wanted to make it as economical and inexpensive as possible because we want to reach a broad audience. Mostly to share our love for comics. Because I still think comics are poo-pooed in some areas, and that's a word my dad taught me. I think sometimes comics are pushed aside as not legit reading. Au contraire. That's so not true. Reluctant readers, this is your jam.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's legit amazing writing and amazing artwork in here. Look at this sequential storytelling. This is by Amalia DiGirolamo, and it's actually one of my favorite tales in the bathroom. But I want to jump back to bedroom first because Chrissy Williams did an excellent job curating the bedroom. Chrissy is not only a terrific editor, she's a poet, and she has a poem in here that is just fantastic. It's so good. I'm going to ask Chris to read it. Not to put her on the spot or anything, but this poem is
Put me on the spot.
fantastic.
I had no idea.
Go.
She'd written this.
She did.
The monster hangs upon the door. She grins and starts to flex her claws. She waited till the lights went out to dart around and make me shout. I'm under the covers, I'm so afraid of scaly beasts and their escapades. When suddenly here in the perilous night, he offers the claw in a warm invite. I take her hand and squeeze it tightly, banishing fears the moon shines brightly, dancing around in a devilish sweep till tiredness beckons us both to sleep.
Nice job.
Oh, yeah.
Lighting by Bond Vivant.
Vivant, I like that a lot.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. And let's talk a little bit more about the bedroom because we've got superstars in here. We've got
Dancing.
newcomers. We've got Stephanie Hans, who did such a beautiful job doing the illustrations for Angela Cleland's prose story, which is called Comes to the Crunch. This one actually was so inventive. It really captured the feeling of those four walls just
Closing in.
definitely.
Yeah,
We've got
I think we've all felt that way.
anyone who ever rode a horse or wanted to ride a horse. I did until I discovered allergies. I was the kid who all summer at camp had a bunch of tissues like stuffed under my hard hat. And it was so bad. And my mom and dad, all summer, 8 weeks, I was sick as a dog. And my parents said, why didn't you just stop taking lessons? We signed you up for the lessons. You could have just stopped. And I said, well, they told me they wouldn't give you your money back. So I persevered so my dad wouldn't lose money.
Oh,
Can you believe that?
yeah, that's pretty sweet.
You do need to talk to my dad. He might tell you that I'm making that up, but it's true. The other thing in the bedroom that I wanted to point out is Sarah Gordon's work. Sarah is
That's one of
phenomenal.
my favorites.
She not only drew this incredible cat,
Mhm.
and in fact, I want to actually I want to bet all the editors. I want us all to come up with the final number of cats.
I think I counted a couple times, I think.
And what's the total?
I cannot remember.
What?
I remember, because didn't you remember you were like, we're going to do a game. And so we had everybody count their cats.
This is
and
the game.
the numbers.
This is
I
the
don't
game.
remember what it was, I'll be honest.
Well, I think that we have to challenge our listeners now, our viewers. Like, we want to know, how many cats have you found in the book? Because I'm going to just pick a number. I'm going to say 3,010. I know. I got lofty goals in my life. Love the cat lady story. Thank you so much to Kitty Curran, Larissa Zarigas, and Becca Carey, because they collaborated on this adorable story about a cat lady. It's a romance in the bedroom.
Oh, yeah. I remember that one.
You know, I wanted to say real quick, you know, I think one of the best things about the book too is, much like with Hey Amateur, the last project of yours that I got, I discovered a lot of talent, new talent that I didn't know about. And same thing with this. And I think that that's one of the allures of the book, to me as a fan of comic books as a medium, right? And I think what you guys are doing with this also is really pushing the boundaries of what a comic book can and should be. And I think that that's, at least I know it's very evident in your work, Shelly, especially with like the types of stories that you've told for years and books that you've been on. I was wondering, like, I know Lola the illustrator, she's 12, right?
Yes.
How young are some of these creators? I mean, and she's fantastic. I think it's also very inspiring to younger kids that are going to read this book. And I think that's also one of the draws that I think will appeal to a younger audience, is that, like, oh wow, I could do this too, kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Without a doubt, you've hit on two major points that we wanted to get across, Ryan, so thanks. First of all, I try to make a plea to every assistant editor, every associate editor who wants to impress his, her, or their boss. This is your Bible. This is the new wave of comic book creators. It's your cheat sheet. We put this together for you. You're welcome. You can thank us by supporting the book. There are 150 creatives in here, female, non-binary. They are ready and waiting for new experiences and new jobs in comics. And yes, 12 and up. Lola is definitely the youngest, and she is phenomenal. And I will tell you a lot more about her when we quickly walk through the garage section. But the other point that you raised, which is just so true, is we live in a DIY culture now. And if this book inspires one young person to become a comic book editor or comic book writer or comic book artist or letterer, then my job is done. It's about the future. It's about career goals and opportunities that you might not know about.
Absolutely. You could have said it better. You know, when I was younger, I went into art school after high school, thinking that what was available to me was basically to write and illustrate my own children's books, because I had a major in fiction writing and a minor in illustration. And children's books were the only things I knew of where I could actually get a career, hard as it was, and with those two majors. And in the 90s, you know, because I'm old, Image happened, and all of a sudden it was like, oh wait, anybody could do comics, oh my gosh. And then it became, you know, a whole huge thing of reading one book that spurred me on to this career path and being like, oh, I could do this, I could actually do this. And if that happens to somebody else because of this book, oh my gosh, like, that job done, you know. It's like,
I agree.
Fantastic. So
no, absolutely. For me, it was similar, and I'm even older than you, but I discovered comics in the late 80s in a screenwriting class. I was offended by what I thought were the only comics you could buy, which were superhero comics that objectified women. So I didn't want to be a part of that. But in my screenwriting class, my teacher held up a copy of Peter Bruce's Empire Lames, which was a black and white indie comic. And he said, this is storyboarding. And I was fascinated. So I went to the comic book store, and it was the late 80s, and it was a big comics boom. And I discovered Love and Rockets and Redwall and Hellblazer #1. And I knew that I couldn't write or draw, but I was a film major, and I loved editing. And I thought, well, maybe editing film and tape can translate to comic books. So I gave it a shot, and I never left, 30 years and counting.
Yeah.
So if we encourage or inspire new people to bring their ideas to comics, our job is done. But we still need to talk about this little room, the bathroom. And I always like to say that Nicole Boos drew the short straw, and she knew it. When Nicole joined us, she was the last editor in. And I'm pretty sure she wasn't expected to be handed the attic, for instance.
Yeah.
I think she knew she was going to get potluck. So the first thing she thought of was, how am I going to make this bathroom interesting? And how am I going to not make it full of fart jokes that my son would enjoy? And what she did was she turned it on its head, and she created an amazing space for self-care and rejuvenation.
Yep. It's very impressive. It's honestly one of the best rooms in the house.
It is.
Because I think, you know, we can all relate to everything that's in there, from cutting our bangs to, you know, taking a shower to just kind of like de-stress from the day.
How about a magical narwhal shower cap? I mean, that is clever. And that was a prose story that actually, thank you very much to Meredith Nudo, who wrote that story, and Denny Lance, who illustrated it. This is the charming story about how to cut your bangs by MJ Kremer, a terrific writer on the rise, and artist Lindsay J. Bryan, who's wonderful. Selfies, learn how to take the perfect selfie, thanks to Laura Jones and Sequoia Bostic. And Erica Schultz, who not only lettered for us, but Erica, big shout out for helping us with promotion.
A lot. Yeah.
Erica is such a badass and such a great promoter. Thank you so much for your time and your enthusiasm. Liana Congas is someone who I've never met in person, but I follow her on Twitter, and I think she's also a force to be reckoned with in comics. Watch this woman on the rise. She writes, she draws, she promotes, she does podcasts. Wow. She is, I think, part of the next wave of cool people in comics. And a personal favorite, in addition to curating the garage section with the goal to get everybody familiar with Joe Strummer, who may or may not be my guitar hero, even though he's not specifically known for playing guitar, he's my hero. We have this wonderful prose piece called Little Island. And in addition to editing a section of this book, I sort of deemed myself the managing editor, and I was the designer of many sections, and I lettered a few tales. This was such a joy to work on. It's by Stephanie Nina Pizzarillos, who is a wonderful novelist. Yes. She writes comics, she writes novels, and this story is so charming. It's painted illustrations by Ashley Riblett, and it was one of my favorite pieces to design.
It's gorgeous. Yeah.
I thought it looked like it could be in the New Yorker. I hope I did an okay job for them. I love the story, and it inspired me so much to just up my design game. So I think we are wrapping up here with the garage section, which I'll say started out with Garageland, because like we said before, you know, if one young person picks up this book, colors a page in this book, and says, I want to be a comic book colorist, our job is done. Now for me, growing up, I wasn't into comics, I was into music. I was into music magazines. I listened to albums nonstop back in the early days of vinyl. And I used to love reading about bands. And if one person who doesn't like to write or draw or color or edit hears me or sees me talk about Joe Strummer and listens to the song Garageland and suddenly becomes a music fan or a Clash fan, my job is done as well, because all the comics I work on have a soundtrack. Music and comics to me are like heart and bone. They're in my DNA. It's why I wake up every morning. So if you come into the garage, you will not only find out about how to put together a garage band and read stories about magical things that happen when you create music. There's also a really fun story by Rachel Smith, who some of you may know from her quarantine comics. She's a wonderful British cartoonist, And every day during the quarantine, she's been posting a mini comic that's going to be collected into a book. She did a terrific story that actually leads my section off. It's called The Museum of Mean Mora. This is basically a bratty kid sister who decides to sell her older sister's stolen
diaries,
diaries,
of stuff.
her secret chest of love poems, first bra. So she's trying to make money off of it, and obviously doesn't work out. So it's a tale of sibling rivalry that actually ends nicely, and it features Smudge the cat, who stole my heart. Following that, we've got how to record an industrial album in your garage, and you bet I was going to go for a real musician. So Terry DeCastro, who is the bass player for the band The Wedding Present, actually brought her own artist on board who did a terrific job. So thank you, Carrie McNinch. They'll show you how to record an industrial album in the garage.
Well, I have to say, and also just to add to that, is that I don't know if anybody knows this, but Shelly had all the editors submit what their playlists were for their rooms. And well, it didn't go anywhere, but like it was a great exercise for me. I will tell you that I had so much fun, like just listening to music and being like, that would be in my room if the soundtrack was playing when somebody was listening to this.
Okay, there's a reason why we haven't posted those yet. They are going to go up in the coming days. They have been edited, especially yours. Hey, I put in the time. You got to take my crime.
Oh, wow.
No, I'm kidding. Everybody's entitled to their own musical taste. If it's not mine, go away. Speaking of musical taste, check this out. When I hit up China Clugston Flores, who's one of my favorite people in comics, she is one of the funniest cartoonists ever. If you haven't read Blue Monday, you must buy it now. Please, I beg you. She and I are simpatico on music, and so her playlist is perfect, by the way. She pitched me a history of garage rock. So it's become like this huge poster. I mean, how much more info could you get on a page? It's warranted a double page spread. So thank you, China, for a tremendous job. I also somehow tricked her into doing a little Mad Libs with me.
It's cute.
Anyone that remembers Mad Libs, that was pretty cool when I was a kid.
It was, yes.
That's a lot of fun to do. And now we, of course, come to Lola the illustrator, our youngest contributor. Now, Lola came to my attention through Cindy Whitehead, who you might not know. She is one rad skateboarding champion. She broke the rules as the key social disruptor in the 70s. She was the most famous female skateboarders, at least that I know. She was the first female skateboarder who got a double-page spread in a magazine, a skateboarding magazine in the 70s. She was inducted into the Skateboarding Hall of Fame, and she was introduced by Joan Jett.
Wow.
So that was pretty rad.
That's sick.
And she came into my orbit when I was editing Femme Magnifique, because Jim Rugg, the amazing illustrator and cartoonist, actually chose her to salute. She was his Femme Magnifique, so he wrote a 3-page story about her. And something she did that was just unbelievable. When the 405 freeway was closed down, she decided to skateboard on it.
Really?
Yep.
I didn't
So
know that.
if you haven't heard about Cindy's tale, check out Femme Magnifique, read Jim's story, but also Cindy runs a website, and it's pretty much like a universe. You know, it's like a lifestyle. It's called Girl Is Not a 4-Letter Word.
Oh, cool.
And they not only help female skateboarders and up-and-comers, but they do so much charity work, and they do so much supporting of women who are in the skateboarding environment. Not unlike comics, it's a boys club, and it's getting better, but we still need to work harder to make sure that people are represented equally. You know, parity is something that we're still striving for, I think, in business and in the world. I mean, so Cindy is doing so much for all of us, and I can't recommend this story anymore. It's called Skate or Die, or How to Trick Your Parents, and it's how to figure out a way to skateboard in your garage if you are grounded for life.
It's awesome.
We have a prose story in here by Cecil Castellucci, who just finished a run on Batgirl for DC Comics, and Margot Saltel, who is a wonderful painter, French illustrator, who contributed not just 2 illustrations for the prose story, but she contributed so many other illustrations that we sprinkled throughout the book. And I got my garage band thanks to Max Visaggio and Persephone Cavallanias, who I think is also one of those new artists who I had no idea she existed. I will never forget her name and her email address. She is absolutely phenomenal, and Mags brought her to the project. I mean, seriously, this is worth $20 alone.
Yeah, for sure.
This story and all the passion
it's gorgeous
that both Mags and Persephone donated their time to putting this story together. We also have a Cli-Fi story by Kat Sims, who's a wonderful British cartoonist, and I love the fact that her story was a limited palette. And finally, I ended my garage chapter with Abby James, who is an incredible, very unique cartoonist. And basically, I stumbled onto her work when I went to a convention, a local convention in Pasadena out in California. And I wanted to work with her, but I didn't have an imprint. So it felt a little obnoxious, but I wrote to her and said, hey, look, I would love to work with you. I've got a great project, but it's all donations. And she said, fine. So she said, let me write, draw, and color a 3-page story, because she also wanted to help female and non-binary comic book retailers because they're important to us.
That's cool. That's very cool.
We just want to run through one other thing here, which I thought you need to know about, which is, so when I reached out to Vita Ayala, and they are one of my favorite people in comics right now. And I said, Vita, what would you like to contribute? Because they write and they also love board games. And thankfully, she went with the latter and said, can I create a board game for the book? And so I said, of course you can. So she not only came up with a board, her high concept pitch to me was, it's called It's Alive. It's what's growing in the freezer in the garage. And it's part Little Shop of Horrors, part Candyland. So I was in right from when she said Little Shop, because that's of course such a favorite movie and TV show. It really came alive when Sally Canarino came on board. Sally and Vita had never worked together, but they were great friends online. So they got to jam. And Gab Contreras actually helped us by coloring. So it was, this book brought so many people together that only met online, but they were able to contribute and collaborate on paper. And we've got the attic. We're going to run through the attic for you and then wrap up. But thank you. First of all, thank you for giving us all this time today.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's kind of cool to be able to see it. It's not the same seeing a book online as it is seeing it in your hands. And it just makes me want to have one that much more.
You can buy more. You know, Ryan, we know that you bought one. Why don't you buy one for everybody on your block? I mean, that's okay with us.
I mean, if I had the money, I'd back the rest of the Kickstarter right now.
Oh, that's nice.
Well, I appreciate that, and we will check in with your bank account credentials after the show. So Mariah Huner, anyone that knows Mariah knows that no matter what, like, she would fight you to get to edit and curate the attic. So I wasn't messing with her. When she said she wanted the attic, there was like no problem.
That's great.
I know, she did a really great job.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's.
She has a cat.
It's unique.
She has a cat that opens up her chapter. That's by Jill Thompson, who is a great friend and wonderful painter. I think has won more Eisner Awards for best painter than anyone in the history of the Eisner. One of the things that Mariah did, which I thought was really clever, she wanted to do a lot of black and white stories, and she decided to have a progression. So she starts out black and white and slowly unfolds color into her stories. Here we see a story by Trina Robbins, which is illustrated by Tavaki Niobe. who hails from India. So when I tell you we have creators from the
All
far
over,
nether
yeah.
reaches, we're not kidding. Devaki is terrific. She did a great job on Trina Robbins' story. And then, as you can see, Ryan, we slowly evolved into color. And this was a really fun story, The Letter, by Jennifer de Guzman and drawn by Andrea Schaffling. It's about two cousins who actually venture into no man's land in the attic. And it's a spooky story. But by the end, they make it out alive. I'm glad, right? We've got another story here about a secret space. Thank you so much, Ginny Jordan. And another really unique story called Pentimento by Lila Sturgis, illustrated by Leah Seidman,
Right.
which was a really intense story. I love how experimental.
Yeah, it was
is.
very experimental. It was one of the unique ones. When I was reading through it, I was like, what is this? And then by the end, I was like, wow.
And we also have Miriam Bloom, who had a story that's actually wordless. That's terrific. And Jody Hauser wrote a really cool story about her attic.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got a cat by Megan Hutchison, who's my goth sister. She used to live in LA with me, and she dumped me for Donnie Cates. She ran away, got married. And also we've got a cat by Tula Lotte to end our section here. And I think that's a wrap.
Yeah.
Just so everybody knows, because I think it's important to say, I don't know if you guys have said it on other podcasts, some people think that a lot of stuff that's on Kickstarter, especially if it's somebody that's been in the industry for a while, I mean, you look at like Jim Rugg, or you look at what Scott Snyder's doing, Jeff Lemire, Matt Kent, they end up in retailers. It ends up being distributed through Diamond. Now, this book will not be distributed through Diamond. That's correct, right? So the only way you have it as a retailer is if the retailer backs it themselves.
Exactly. Ryan, I'm really glad you brought up that point. I mean, this is a book that's homegrown. This was an idea that I had in March that 149 other creatives helped me put together. If I wanted to do it myself, it would have taken me about 8 to 9 months, but we didn't have that kind of time. And I wanted to collaborate with other people. I mean, there are rumors about me that I'm a control freak. Not so. This is proof.
It's your proof.
Except for the editing of the playlists, which I don't want anyone to comment on when I send them back their edits. The red pen is the mighty sword.
That's amazing.
But please know that this was a labor of love for everybody involved. Every single person donated their time and put their heart and soul into their projects. This is not going out for wide distribution. We only went to Kickstarter because we got requests for the physical copy. And everything that is on Gumroad will remain. The digital copy for $10 for 270 pages. All proceeds go to our 28 female and non-binary comic book retailers who we are happy to support. The only way for us to make this a print edition is if we took another approach to it. So we decided to put it together as a soft cover, make it as inexpensive as possible, and make a deal that makes it worthwhile for retailers to hop on board.
Right.
So once again, it's retailers, librarians, 3 for 2. We're not kidding. $20 a pop. So if you pay $60 in shipping, you get 2 free. And there's going to be no price on this. We are only going to have on the back, we have the logo reversed because that's my favorite way to end a book. And I stole that from Paul Pope, who is one of my favorite freelancers to work with. He did that with a lot of his books. We're doing it here. Just remember that when you give a gift like this to someone, they'll have it for life. I mean, these pages are going to be well worn over the years.
Hopefully, yeah.
And I think that you're going to get some serious mileage out of this. It's entertainment for the whole family. It's something that I think every bookshelf needs. I think every librarian needs to have a few copies.
Yeah, this is it's definitely one of the most unique Kickstarters I've ever seen. Like I've said it on my Twitter, all of my social media accounts. I've been talking about it. I've talked about it on my podcast. This is the best Kickstarter of 2020, hands down. This is a
Wow.
you will continue to go to, like they said, over and over again, year after year. This isn't something you'll read once and put it away. And I think Shelly's showing a fabric with cats on it. What's that about?
Well, we have a special announcement to make. So if we make our Kickstarter, which fingers crossed, we still need about
We still need
8 grand,
seven
grand. We have put together a fabric jam on Spoonflower. Now, part of the deal with this, when people were contributing, a lot of people were busy. So when we reached out to some of our friends and other people inquired about joining the project, a lot of them didn't have time to do a full story. So I came up with the just one cat approach. Now the just one cat approach is basically this. If you can't give us a lot of your time, could you draw us just one cat? Can you just do a black and white cat on a 4x4 card, just piece of card, and can we make it into a cat jam fabric? And so we had at least 32 people who said absolutely. So you've got these wonderful cats on 3 different types of
3 different colors here.
3 different colors. We've
Black
got
and white,
and
black,
we also
white and gray, and pink.
and we also have teal.
Ooh, too, yeah.
So we're going to put these on Spoonflower once we end the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And all the proceeds from Spoonflower, there's a small percentage, but that money will also be donated to the female and non-binary comic book retailers.
Mm-hmm.
So we didn't want to overwhelm everybody during the Kickstarter, but we want you guys to know that this is to come. This is the 3rd part of our initiative. So we have the digital on Gumroad for $10 or pay what you want. We've got the $20 compendium on Kickstarter now. If you can't afford it, that's fine. Please help us just by sharing our social media information.
Yep.
Just send the link. And then, of course, on Spoonflower, we'll be putting up these patterns. And this is a nice cotton, by the way. Chris has made posters.
I have. I've done little tiny mug mats with them. And I was actually going to try and make a mask out of one, too, but I haven't.
A mask would be good. It's really nice to sew with. I've made a headscarf with it, and I could have put that on today, but I chose to keep it on me as a blanket for this interview. And I hope I've inspired other people to use it as like a lightweight blanket.
Again, make sure you head over there. The day that this goes up, there will be 4 days left to back this awesome project. Is there any last words you guys want to share with everybody watching on?
Just really thank you to all the people that have backed us already. Thanks to all the people who've shared the information. We really appreciate it. Help us support and honor and acknowledge female and non-binary and marginalized genders in comics. We really want to step up and represent. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. And like they said, before, head over to Kickstarter, make sure you back it. Every dollar counts and every backer matters to get this thing brought to life. Thank you guys again for being here with me to talk about it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, awesome.